Yeah. So hello everyone. Welcome to AVLSI lecture number 38.1. Today we are going to start with module number 4, that is operational amplifier, or we can call it short form as Opamp. So let's begin. So basically Opamp is our basic building block of analog and mixed signal circuits. It's basically called as a high gain differential amplifier. That means it can have a gain of 100 or it can have a gain of 10 raised to 5. So basically these are the fundamental requirements of an operational amplifier, which are a very high voltage gain. It need not be accurate because it will be an open loop gain. It should have a high input impedance and it should have a low output impedance. So these three will be the fundamental requirements of any operational amplifier. Now, our focus for this module number 4 is figuring out eventually how to design our own operational amplifier, and based on the application, what should be the specifications of the op-amp. And based on the specifications, how do we design the op-amp? So we will have a detailed analysis of different op-amp topology, single stage and two stage. And finally, we will design a two-stage CMOS op-amp, or it is also prominently, it is also a OTA, right? So OTA is the operational transconductance amplifier. So earlier, op-amps were basically general purpose, like 741. We know op-amp from IC 741, which compromise on performance parameters such as speed, output swing, and power dissipation. It was like it was having a constant gain, right? The gain was around 2 into 10 is to 5, and it had its own limitations. It was not a high-speed op-amp, neither it provided a very good or a great output swing and a power dissipation. By contrast, earlier, this was in earlier days. By contrast, now it's possible to design op-amp for a specific need and application. Okay, so this is your general topology of your op-amp. So we have a first stage, which is a differential input stage. Differential input means it will have your differential output, correct? Then you have a differential stage 2, which will be converting a differential to single-ended conversion. So this will be a single-ended output. It will have second stage op-amp. I mean, then we have a second stage which provides the additional gain, and finally we have the output stage which will provide the low output impedance, which is required for driving the resistive load. So this is my general topology of a operational amplifier. Now, let's discuss more about the output stage. So when you're designing an on-chip op-amp, when you're designing on a chip, most of the time you will be driving another MOSFET differential pair, or you will be driving a capacitor. In that case, the output impedance is very, very high, correct? That means the output impedance looking into these devices, a differential pair, MOSFET differential pair will be very high. In that case, you may not need to have an output stage. Fine. So op-amps will be having an output, low impedance output stage. Whereas OTA, which is your operational transconductance amplifier, does not have a low impedance output stage. That's the only difference between op-amp and OTA. So op-amp will have a low impedance output stage, whereas OTA will not have a low impedance output stage. So that's the only difference. And OTA will have a high impedance, high output impedance. For OTA, the output is the current. So we can refer the 36.2 handout for more details on OTA. Basically, I have pasted the contents over here itself. So this was your 5 transistor OTA which we are talking about, wherein the biasing voltage for M6 is generated by the current mirror M5 transistor, and I reference is generated with the help of R reference, correct? So this was the OTA which we were talking about, a single stage OTA. Now, OTA cannot drive a low impedance load like a resistive load, correct? So we can call it something like a op-amp MIT. So you could say that I will only design op-amps, but then for most of the applications on chip, you're not really driving a resistor. Only for a few limited cases where you're driving a resistor, only in those cases you use a op-amp. So on-chip amplifiers are normally OTAs only. Okay, so 90% of the time we use OTAs instead of op-amps on chip. Now let's see if we can answer this question. So for designing a circuit which looks like this, okay, we have a capacitor over here and capacitor over here. So can I use a OTA over here, or I use a op-amp? So definitely the answer is, for case number one, we use a OTA because it's good to drive a capacitive load. And in second case, when driving a resistor, we don't use a OTA, we use a op-amp, operational amplifier, right? Whereas for the first case, we use a operational transconductance amplifier. So the only distinction between the op-amp and the OTA is that op-amp has a driver stage and OTA does not have a output driver stage. That's the only difference. Fine. Are you all following? Did you understand the difference between OTA and op-amp and why OTA is preferred over op-amp on chip? Because most of the time we are driving a high impedance load, and that is provided by your operational transconductance amplifier. Fine. So let's move on to the next topic now. So next topic is about Opamp or OTA performance parameters. So what are we going to do here? Here we are going to describe a number of Opamp or OTA design parameters, which will provide an understanding of why and where each may become important, because all these performance parameters might be the specifications. So what are the specifications or the performance parameters of Opamp or OTA, right? Voltage gain. A voltage gain will be specified that I want a voltage gain of 5,000 plus. I want a voltage gain of 10,000 plus. Small signal bandwidth, which will decide the speed. So bandwidth might be given. Output swing will be defined. Power dissipation. Input common mode range, which we call it as a ICMR. Correct? So this is also very, very important factor. Then we have offset. Okay, we have an offset voltage. Then noise, linearity, CMRR, PSRR, which is your power supply rejection ratio, input output impedance, and slew rate. So these are all the performance parameters or specifications which might be given for a design of OPAM or OTA. Fine. So let's start by explaining in brief about input common mode range, ICMR. So let's begin. So I will do this quickly. I will not discuss this in detail because we are going to focus on the analysis of the circuit rather than studying about its. Knowing about the common mode voltage range or common mode range is very important, right? So let's begin. So what do you mean by common mode range, CMR? So it is the range of the common mode input voltages for which all devices are in saturation. So simply put, CMR is under what conditions the circuit will work. Fine. We know that, and everyone agrees that when we apply any input to the gate terminals of M1 and M2, this is basically a differential amplifier which we are talking about with resistive pair. So whatever parameters are there for a differential amplifier, same are there for op-amp and same are there for OTA. So over here we have ISS current source implemented by M3 transistor, right? And with a biasing voltage VB. Now everyone knows that whenever you apply a AC signal, we have to have a biasing voltage also applied to M1 and M2. So let's say that DC biasing. So that DC biasing may also be your input common mode level, correct? So what do we do over here is that whenever we have only common mode input applied, your M1 and M2 transistor might be might be drawn as a composite transistor, correct? So we have drawn over here not a composite transistor. We can draw one half of the circuit, correct? It's a symmetric network, right? So we have drawn one half of the circuit, so it looks like something like this. So input common mode voltage is VICM, correct? And we know that one half of the circuit, right? We have drawn one half of the circuit, so the current will be ISS by 2. So here we carry ISS by 2 current, M3 transistor. Fine. So now let's further analyze. So now we are calculating VICM max. What is the input common mode level maximum value? So here the current flowing through the circuit is ISS by 2. So let's say your VICM max, how much maximum value we can apply. So here we are applying a KVL over here. So we have VICM max minus VGS1 plus VDS SAT1 plus ISS by 2 into RD minus VDD, right? Equal to 0. So we know that VD-SAT is basically VGS1 minus VTH1. So VGS1 will be VD-SAT plus VTH1, right? So over here, we can write VICM max minus can we write in place of VGS1? VTH1 minus VD-SAT, correct? Plus VD-SAT plus ISS by 2 into RD minus VDD equal to 0. So from here, VD-SAT and VD-SAT will get cancelled out. So VICM max value will be VDD minus ISS by 2 into RD plus VTH1, correct? So if you see carefully, this minus ISS by 2 into RD is nothing but my DC drop across register RD. Okay, ISS by 2 into RD is nothing but my DC drop across register RD. So I can rewrite this expression as VICM max value will be equal to VDD minus, plus VTH1 minus ISS by 2 into RD. So this is my IR drop. Okay, so if you look carefully over here, let me take some values from here, right? Let me take some values. So let's say that VDD is 1.8 volt, VTHN is 0.5, ISS by 2 into RD is 300 millivolt, correct? So what is ICM max value? It will be VDD, which is 1.8 volt, plus VTH, which is 0.5, and ISS by 2 into RD is 0.2. So 1.8 plus uh, 0.5, which is 2.3 minus 0.3 will be 2 volt. So we are saying that we can apply 2 volt, even higher than, even though VDD is 1.8 volt, based on the analysis so far. Okay, which is rarely the case. We should not apply the common mode input voltage greater than the supply voltage. So even though theoretically we can apply your VICM max greater than the VDD, but practically your VICM max is limited to VDD minus VDSAT. Okay, in theory we can say that VICM max is greater than VDD, but practically it is VDD minus VDSAT for NMOS transistor. Okay, so in reality, on a chip, we generally have one supply voltage. So if we say that we can apply a VICM max of 2 volt over here, as we have seen in the analysis, it's very difficult to generate that. Correct? And where do we get this VICM from? Where the input common voltage is coming from? So it is going to come from some other analog circuit. It may have some limitation of VDS set. So it's not that key we have only standalone single amplifier. We have various amplifier, multi-stage amplifiers which might be connected. So your VICM may come from there. Okay, so we'll always have that VDS limitation, correct? So typically the incoming voltage cannot be more than VDD minus VDSAT. That's the limitation. So the maximum value of input common mode voltage is VDD minus VDSAT with practical considerations due to the previous stage. So let's say in our analysis, your VDSAT value, let's say it's 0.15, 150 millivolt, and VDD is around 1.5, 1.8 volt. So what is my maximum input common mode voltage? Maximum input common mode voltage is 1.65 volt. Okay, I'll explain you what do we mean by all these things. Now let's calculate, VICM minimum value. Okay, minimum common mode input voltage. So minimum common mode input voltage will be from this circuit. Okay, so we can apply a KVL over here. So VICM minus VGS1 minus VDSAT 3 is equal to 0. Now, what is VGS1? So we know that what is VDSAT? VDSAT is nothing but VGS1 minus VTH1. So VGS1 will be VDSAT plus VTH, right? So I can write it as VICM minimum will be, VICM minimum minus VDSAT1 minus VTH1. Okay, from here it came. Minus VDSAT 3 is equal to 0. Now, normally the VDSAT 1 and VDSAT 3 are equal because we consider normally that transistors M1 and M3 will be matched. So finally, we get the minimum input common mode voltage, VICM minimum will be VTH plus twice VDSAT. So according to our calculations, VDSAT value is 0.15 and VTH value is 0.5. So VICM value will be zero point 0.8. So my minimum input common mode voltage will be 0.8 volt. So let's understand what does this mean. So this means that if you have a supply voltage of 1.5 volt, we can apply a maximum input common mode voltage. It can go max to 1.65 and minimum it can go to 0.8. That's the meaning of it. Okay. So the common mode range according to this circuit over here is between 1.65 to 0.8 volts. Meaning if I keep my common mode range between these levels, only then all the transistors will work properly. All the transistors will be in saturation and the circuit will work without any problem. Fine. So that's the common mode range, which is very, very important. That means your differential amplifier shown over here will only work if the common mode level moves within this common mode range. That is, the common mode voltage level will be between 0.8 volts and 1.65 volts. And then you apply your differential voltage around it. So basically why we are doing all this analysis, correct? So let's say we draw this supply range over here. So our supply range is 0 to VDD. VDD is 1.8 volt. And our common mode range is 0.8 volt to 1.65 volt. So why we are so focused on the common mode, common mode input range? So where are we going with this? So remember, our ultimate goal is to design an operational amplifier or a OTA, correct? So anyone can tell me what is this kind of amplifier? This is a Opamp symbol, right? So this is my, what is the gain of this amplifier? Can anyone tell me? What is the gain of such? Yeah, unity gain. It's yeah, correct. It's a unity gain amplifier. Basically, the output will follow the input. That is the expected behavior. And the op-amp is in the feedback loop, correct? So basically, it's a unity gain amplifier. What we want is V out should be following my input, correct? Now see what will happen. Now let's say your differential amplifier will work only between 1.58 volt to 0.8 volt. Correct? We have established that fact, right? If my input common mode level is between 1.65 and 0.8 volts, then only my then only my differential amplifier will work properly, and hence my op-amp basically, right? So let's see what will happen now. Let's say that this is my op-amp which we are talking about, right? I have connected in the unity gain mode, gain amplifier mode. So my output should be equal to input. So let's say if I apply 1 volt to the input, will the circuit work? If I apply 1 volt to the input, will I get 1 volt at the output? Yes. Why not? Because my input is falling in this common mode range. So my circuit will work and my output will be equal to 1 volt only. So my 1 volt will be appearing at the output as well. Because what is the meaning of circuit working? Circuit is working means all the transistors will be in saturation and all the currents will be biased properly if only my input is falling in that input common mode range. Sorry for this. Yeah, if my input is falling within this range, only then my circuit will be working. All the transistors will be biased, will be in saturation, and all the currents will be biased properly. Okay, so if I apply a 1 volt, my will be 1 volt. What will happen? If I apply 0.5 volt over here, right? If I apply input common mode voltage as 0.5, my output will not be equal to input. Why? Because M1 and M2 transistor will go in cutoff mode. And the voltage at the inverting terminal will try to follow the voltage at the non-inverting terminal, but it will not happen over here. This is where we have trouble with this circuit. Are you understanding now? Why this input common mode voltage range is important? Okay, if I apply the input common mode level as 0.5 volt, the same circuit will not work. So what is the solution? let's say we want to work at a lower input common mode voltage range. So what is the solution? Let's say if you want to work at lower voltage than this, we want to really apply 0.2 volts, 0.5 volts, and still want the op-amp circuit to work. So what's the solution? You go for a PMOS differential pair. Okay, what's the solution is? You reverse it. You, instead of NMOS, you use PMOS differential pair. So anyone can tell me, how do we draw a PMOS differential pair? How do it will look like? What will change in the circuit? Can anyone tell me? We have never seen a PMOS differential pair. We have always discussed NMOS differential pair. So how will it look like? It looks something like this. Your current source over here is sourcing the current from the supply to the remaining remainder of the circuit. And here the load will come down, right? Your M1 and M2 transistor are PMOS transistors. And this is your PMOS differential pair circuit. Okay. So now again, we assume that your threshold voltage for PMOS transistor is minus 0.6 and VDSAT value is around 0.15, right? So for a PMOS differential pair amplifier, we are not doing the analysis in so much detail. Your minimum input common mode level will be 0 plus VDSAT. That is around 0.15 volt. I'm not discussing how this has come in detail, but this is what we get. Your minimum input common mode level will be 0.15 volt. And your maximum input common mode level will be VDD minus mod of VTP plus twice VDSAT. Okay, so according to analysis, this will be 1.8 minus 0.6. VDSAT value is 0.15. That will be 0.3. So 1.8 minus 0.9, which will be 0.9. Okay, so for a PMOS differential pair, our common mode range will be between 0.9 volts to 0.15 volt. So if I want to draw it together, if I want to draw the supply range, now this is my supply range 0 to 1.8 volt. And this green color region over here is a patch for, is my common mode range for a PMOS differential pair. And my red color patch over here is for NMOS differential pair common mode range. So now you see the difference. We can use a smart combination of a NMOS differential pair and a PMOS differential pair, so that we can increase your common mode input range. Okay, so are you following what is going on? So for a NMOS differential pair, your input common mode range will be between 0.8 to 1.65. These are just numbers, example numbers. And for a PMOS differential pair, it can go as low as 0.15 volt. So you can easily apply a 0.2 volts also and still expect the output to be 0.2 volts. Okay. So if we use a smart combination of NMOS and a PMOS differential pair. So in many cases, when you're designing an amplifier like this, you really need to, really need input to go from a lowest end of the supply to the highest end of the supply. That is rail to rail, 0 to VDD. So for a rail to rail input common mode level, the smart combination of NMOS PMOS differential pair is used. Okay, so that's why knowing the input common mode range is very, very important. So this is your input common mode range. Understood? What do you mean by input common mode range? Again, I repeat, it is a range of common mode input voltages for which all the transistors are in saturation. And to handle a rail to rail input, input common mode range, we should use a smart combination of NMOS and a PMOS differential pair. Okay. So, this was, we have completed the discussion on the very important, Opamp or OTA performance parameter, that is input common mode range. Fine. Any questions, anyone in this?